Today on Carcass, we have an abandoned project that's a little rough around the edges, and we want to turn it into a daily driver.
We'll show you how to repair rust in the common trouble areas, plus give you several tips on how to straighten out minor body damage. What's up everyone, welcome to Carcass. Today we have an OBS Chevy in the shop, and although we did build one last season, this is for a very different purpose. This truck has a ton of miles, it has dents and dings, it has rust in a few places, and we want to use it as a platform to show you guys how you can fix something like this and bring it back in better condition.
It really doesn't matter if it's a Ford, a Chevy, or a Dodge, or if it's a car or a truck. Like Jimmy said, we're going to use this as a platform to kind of show you guys how to straighten out your vehicle and do a little bit of body work. So we're going to be pulling out a couple of dents and dings. We're also going to be doing some rust repair, and this truck has the one spot where they most commonly like to rust. And that's right down here at the cab corner. Now the plus side to this being the most common spot that the trucks rust out is that they make a repair panel to fix pretty much every make and model. And with the cost of these repair panels, it really doesn't make any sense to try to fix what this little hole is down here. We're just going to go ahead and replace the entire cab corner. And the easiest way to get to that cab corner is we just got to get rid of the box first.
And if you don't have a cherry picker handy to get the bed off, just ask a couple friends, it's easy to take off.
Ready? Like we've shown you before, we'll use a heat gun to apply a little bit of heat to the molding and then use a scraper to peel it right off. All right, now that we have the bed off, we can have a really good look at how much rust is down here in the cab corner, so that thing's pretty much shot. We picked up this replacement cab corner from Summit Racing, and the idea here is to only use what we need. So we're gonna come and cut this right at the body line. And the reason why we're doing it at the body line is when we go back to weld this together, we're gonna be adding a lot of heat to this thin sheet metal. Heat equals warpage, that equals more body work. But when you do some of your welding on a body line, it stays a little bit stronger, less warpage, less body work. So the idea here is we'll come across, cut this right here on the body line, get this all peeled off, and then we'll get the new one put right back on. When cutting off body panels, make sure to keep your cutting disc really shallow because you never know what's behind the panel and you don't want to cut or damage anything else. All right, we have the cab corner off. As you guys can see, there's a little bit of rust damage down here inside. We're not too concerned about that, but we will take care of it a little later. What I have to do yet is actually center punch all of the spot welds over here on the pinch weld areas, and then we'll have to just drill those out as well. We'll just keep moving right along here. Out of there, that works. All right guys, let's talk about the rust that's down here inside the cab area. Now there's two ways to go about fixing this. If you guys are gonna restore the truck, what you could do is cut all of this out, but you probably would have to make your own repair panels because they don't make any patch panel for this. Or you could do what we're gonna do, and that's just mainly stop or slow down new rust from forming. So what we're gonna do is grab the wire wheel here, we'll clean all of this up, and then we're gonna spray it with some rust fix. We'll let that dry. From there, we'll go on to test fitting the cab corner. Okay, now that we have the rust all cleaned up, we're gonna go ahead and spray this with some rust fix. I know this kind of looks like it is rust. It's not, it's actually some sound deadening that they spray in from the factory. So we'll go ahead and spray everything down here. We'll give it a couple of coats and then we'll move on to installing the cab corner. All right, well now that we have the inside all taken care of, we can cut the new cab corner to fit. There's two ways you guys can do this. You can actually take the old piece that you cut out, lay it on top of your cab corner, trace and cut it out. Or what we did is we cut right here on the body line. So all I'm going to do is take the body line of the new cab corner, we'll come up about 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch, and we'll make our cut line there. That way, as I test fit it onto the truck, I can sneak up to our original cut line, and then we can get it to fit perfectly. So I'll head over to the bench, we'll cut this down to fit, and we'll get this thing welded on the truck. With our patch panels cut out, we'll show you how to make it fit like new. All right guys, well, we have the old cab corner out and the new cab corner is fitting very nicely. Now to get this prepped and ready for installation, we're gonna have to punch a series of holes in these two flanges here. We'll have to come back, take the E-coating off of the panel, and we'll have to take the paint off of the truck. Then we'll fire up the welder and get this puppy installed. Yeah. That fits really nice. To punch our holes, we're using our pneumatic Matco Tools hole punch. It makes short work of projects like this. Then we'll start prepping the body by removing the paint so we can get ready to weld. All right guys, so the panel's in, test fit's done, and it's all prepped and ready to weld. A couple things you're gonna want. One, your welder, you're gonna want a low amperage. We're not looking for any type of structural welding here. We're just trying to hold two pieces of steel together. And two, and most importantly, you want a little tiny screwdriver. What you can do with this is actually get it up in between the two pieces of metal and shift it around. The closer you can get these parts to fit, the less body work you have to do. So that's what we're shooting for. Fits pretty good, so we'll go ahead and throw the helmet on, put a couple tacks in place. We'll start off with some nice small tacks, then we can always come back and adjust the welder from there. Once we've got it tacked in, we'll start filling in between each one of the welds. So we're gonna start stitching it together. We'll do short pulls of the trigger, creating a stitch weld. That way we don't drive a lot of heat into the panel, causing it to warp. So just take your time and move all the way around the panel. From there, we'll fill in the holes with some rosette welds. All right, well, we're all welded up and it's time to move on to a very crucial step, and that's grinding. What we've done is stacked up two cutoff wheels so it gives us a little more thickness, and we're gonna lay the grinder across the weld like this. Now, as we grind, we're gonna pay attention to when we either touch the top or the bottom part of our metal, and then we're gonna stop or we're gonna move on quickly. What we don't wanna do is take too much material away and chance this cracking down the road. So we're just gonna barely brush across the top and knock all that down. And then we're gonna come across it with a flap disc and smooth out the line that we just welded up. A smooth line means less body work, and that means you get the job done a whole lot quicker. That should do that just fine. All right, well, we're all done grinding and it actually turned out pretty straight, but we are gonna add a little bit of body filler. Now, what I like to do is put some deep scratches into the steel here, and what that does is it helps the filler really bite and attach to the metal. So you can use sandpaper, anything from 36 to 80 grit. So we'll go ahead and sand this down a little bit. We'll mix up some mud and get it on the truck. mix this until it's consistently kind of a grayish blue. Get everything mixed in nicely so it sets up evenly when you put it on the truck. With our body filler set up, it's time to start sanding. Now we're gonna do this in a couple of stages. We're gonna start with 80 grit. We're slowly gonna work our way all the way up to 320 grit, and we're gonna try to make this as smooth as possible. And from there, shoot a little bit of primer on it, and it's ready for some paint. We also have a couple more things that we do wanna do. We got some dents and dings on the hood that we wanna take care of. But for now, I'm gonna get this thing sanded and get it close to being ready for some primer.
Coming up, pesky dent repair that doesn't damage your paint. Jeremy made some great progress on the cab corner of our Chevy 1500 pickup. It's all smoothed out and ready for paint, but there's some more damage on the hood that we want to take care of.
There's actually 3 different types of dents on the hood, and this one up here has got a little bit of a crease to it. This dent right here actually has some paint damage to it, but there's a dent over here that's kind of the run-of-the-mill dent. It doesn't have any paint damage at all, so we're going to do some PDR or paintless dent repair to this one, and Jimmy actually has a pretty cool tool that's going to help us take care of this.
Like Jeremy said, we're doing a paintless dent repair, which is a great option if you can do it, because it's going to save you a lot of time and money in the long run, not having to prep a panel and eventually go and paint it. This dent fix kit that we got from Matco Tools includes everything that we need to do that on our green truck, including hot glue gun, glue sticks, a large variety of pulling nibs, a squeeze puller, slide hammer, and some shaping tools to give us a lot of options for whatever we are working on. And to show you how this thing works, we'll head over to the truck and get started. Alright, so the idea here is you don't want to really press it down against the panel. You want to leave about an 1/8 inch of glue between the nib and the panel. So we just kind of have to let this set up, and then we'll start pulling on it. Okay, so another thing with this is that you don't want to just jam on the handle, because you might pull the nib out or you might overdo pulling the dent out. So you just want to kind of watch it very carefully, just kind of massage it. All right, so I think we got quite a bit of the dent out, so I'm going to take this off and just check it, and we'll see where we're at. To get the glue to release, we'll just spray it with some of this release spray, and then use a scraper to get it off. Yeah, it's really easy. So I've got the majority of this dent pulled out, but I think I'm gonna go back and do a little more massaging to get it looking a little bit better. But the beauty of this system is that the paint in this area hasn't been disturbed at all. So once you get the desired result, there's no finishing work really to be done. Of course, this truck has a lot of other issues, and on the other side of the hood, there's some dents and creases that have the paint chipped off already. So Jeremy's gonna show you how to fix those using one more method.
Now to take care of the dents on the other side of the hood, we're gonna have to do something a little more aggressive and use a tool called a stud gun, and that involves removing some paint. It's kind of close to what Jimmy was doing, but it's just a little bit different. Jimmy, how did this turn out?
It came out really good. I'm very impressed with how none of the paint got damaged whatsoever, so I'm curious how your side's gonna come out.
Yeah, this dent's a little bit different. Well, we're gonna take a really good look at this first before we dive into it. All right, so let's take a really good look at this dent right here. There's actually a crease, or there's 2 creases in it, and that's why we can't use the glue gun to pull this out. It's just gonna take entirely too much force to reverse this dent. But before we get in here and start grinding paint to put some of the studs on to do the pull, we're gonna take a really good look on the back side, because we might be able to push on that dent from the back and get it out just a little bit. There's actually a little access hole back here, like a manufacturing hole that they have, and I can feel the dent. It's kind of right at the very edge of it. So I'm gonna grab some tools, and we'll see if we can't push this out just a little bit. I don't think we'll get the whole thing out, but we might be able to help it so I don't have to do as much work with the stud gun. So I'll go grab some tools here quick, and we'll see what we can do. All right. First thing to do before you get started is to give yourself plenty of light. Then we're gonna take these little picks here. We're actually gonna get up and start tapping on the bottom side of the crease. We're gonna do that really lightly and slowly move that dent up. And then when we're done, we'll go ahead, grab the stud gun, and finish this whole thing off. One of the big things is as you're doing it too, don't be afraid to check and see how it's going. That's pretty close. I mean, that's probably as close as we're gonna get it using this type of method, I guess. And from here, we use the stud gun because there's a low on this side. We still got a little high in the center and a low on this side. So what I'll end up doing is taking some of the paint off, and then we're gonna use the stud gun. We'll pull the lows back up, we'll tap the high down, and see how we look. All right, now we're all ready to weld the studs on. We're gonna be using a Matco tool stud gun. What that does is it welds these little copper studs onto the bare metal. So you just set it onto the spot where you like it, or where you want it to be, push it down, pull the trigger. And what that does, that welds that stud onto the low spot. Now what we'll do is we'll weld a series of these studs onto this panel in a couple different areas. Then we'll come back, make a couple pulls, see how straight we can get this thing. Don't go away. We finished showing you how to straighten out minor body damage on your daily driver. All right, guys, well, we've been removing some dents on the hood, and Jimmy took care of the one on the passenger side using the paintless dent removal process. And I've been tackling the one on the driver's side that had a bit of a crease in it. Now, we did a little bit of work from the backside using a hammer and kind of a little pick to try to drive it out, but we couldn't quite get it perfect, so we welded a couple studs on it, and now we're gonna finish it off doing a little pull. We're gonna be using a couple different tools for that, this little T-handle here, and if that doesn't work, we're gonna move on to the slide hammer, but first we'll try the T-handle and see if I can't just pull it out. Just to kind of bite on there. I'm gonna try to do some pulls. Now it is moving, but I don't know if it's staying there. We're not going for perfection here. We know we're gonna have to put a little bit of mud on it, but I think from here we'll check it with a straight edge, and then if we have to give it a little tap with a slide hammer, we can do that too. Check it with a straight edge. It's just a little low yet. It's probably good enough to put a little bit of mud on it, for body filler. But we'll give it a couple taps with the slide hammer, bring it up. Now for the slide hammer, it's basically the same, except we're just gonna kind of use it to jar the panel up, or a little dent, I guess. Now we've got maybe a 1/16 of an inch here. So we'll call that, we know we're gonna have to do a little bit of body filler work. We'll snip off the studs with a side cutter and then grind them flat. All right, so this dent is pretty straight and it feels pretty good, and it's ready for some body filler work, but we do have a couple more dents up here on the hood, and those are gonna be basically rinse and repeat to what we did up front here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take care of these quick, then we can prep these so we can put body filler on both spots at the same time and just tackle it like that. All right, well, we're all prepped and ready to put down some filler, and you guys are probably wondering why I have such a large area prepped around the two small dents that we took care of. But there is a reason for that. So as you start laying out your filler, you're naturally gonna make the area a little bit bigger and bigger with the coverage of your filler. So that's why you always just make it a little bit bigger. Don't worry, you're gonna end up sanding most of it off anyways, just to get both of these two dents straight. So we're gonna go ahead and mix some of this filler up. Go ahead and put it on the top and the front here, and then we'll sand it. And then I'm gonna show you guys a cool little trick on how to mask so you don't get a hard edge when you go to prime. Just like on the cab corner, we'll start with 80 grit and then work our way up to 320. All right, that's pretty smooth. It's ready for some paper, and then you can go ahead and prime it too.
Sounds good. All right, so normally when you would tape this off, intuitively you would probably tape it like this and just make a border around where you don't want paint, but having the tape right on the surface makes a really hard edge, so what we're actually gonna do is turn the paper around. We'll lay the paper down, and then we will fold the paper kind of back over itself, and the paper is going to create a round edge, so when you go to paint, the paint will kind of loft in, and then it makes it easier to kind of blend out when you start sanding.
That looks really good, actually.
Yeah, you did a nice job on the bodywork, so just a couple more coats here, and then we get it cleaned up.
Yeah, that's the joys of using spray paint, right?
Right, yeah.
If you like anything you've seen, be sure to check out Power Nation TV.
Today on Carcass, we head out to a salvage yard to rescue an engine for our abandoned daily driver project.
We'll get it back to the shop, tear it down, and give a quick refresh before dropping it back into our Chevy.
Hey guys, welcome to Carcass. While we're out and about today, we're gonna go to someplace a little special to pick up some pretty important parts for our next project.
Yeah, so we're actually bringing back a previous project that you guys have seen before. It's a 1996 Chevy pickup, single cab short bed, which is one of our personal favorites. So on that truck, we did a little bit of body and paint work just to show you guys how to do that stuff. But now we're actually gonna bring it back and do kind of an original restoration, if you will. So on the outside, we want to keep it pretty much stock looking, but drivetrain wise, we're going to upgrade it, and we're going to get something from a newer Chevy pickup.
Yeah, so we're in our Rock Auto driveway rescue van. It's packed full of tools. So we're going to go out to the salvage yard, pluck this engine and trans combo out of it. We're going to load it in the van and get it all back to the shop. And once we're there, we'll assess what we got. We'll jump on rockauto.com, figure out what we need, and get a bunch of stuff ordered and get this whole thing started and put together.
Yep, and I've already looked a little bit, and Rock Auto does offer some mild upgrade parts, so depending on what we want to get into, we could throw a little bit of a cam at it.
Yeah.
Just depends what we want to do, but otherwise, you know, Rock Auto has everything we need to do a little bit of a freshen up for this thing, and should get it on the road and should drive pretty nice.
Yeah, and I think it's not too far up here, so we'll get up here, unload everything, go out, find what we need, and get it back to the shop, get started.
Yeah, let's find something.
All right, man. I think all the LS's, GM stuff, that's all in the back corner. So
Yeah, let's go grab it.
let's do it.
We're at Express Pull and Save, where they feature 2,000 cars and their inventory changes daily. We've been up and down a few rows already, just checking things out, and we have quite a few options, but we're looking for an engine that's a little more complete. And even already in this row, there's a Yukon right here, there's a couple Tahoes. We're just checking things out to see what we have.
Let's see how much is there or not there.
Yeah, this one's got most of the front drive, computers here.
It's nice that the fenders are off of it,
Yeah, it makes it easy to work on.
right?
It is two-wheel drive too, so that's a plus.
That's what we're looking for. It looks clean.
Yeah.
Like the engine itself is very clean.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of grime and junk on it, so.
I don't know. I think,
Is this it?
Yeah, I think this is our best bet.
All right. Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right, let's grab some tools. We'll get the core support off first,
Yeah.
and then just dive into it. All right, Jimmy. It's kind of heavy. The LS platform came around in the late 90s and has become an extremely popular swap. You can find these engines in multiple GM cars, trucks, and SUVs. And the aftermarket support for the LS is huge, and you can even make them build some pretty impressive horsepower. Okay, there's that one. Now we get the picker in here, pick this thing up. Now imagine trying to do this when they didn't have this type of equipment in here.
Or if you're by yourself.
Or if you're by yourself, yeah, you're screwed. Ooh. All right. That's how you pull a junkyard motor.
Yeah.
Now we just got to get it on a cart. How does it roll?
Not bad.
Yeah, it seems to roll okay. Okay, good. Not majorly flat tires, but. That looks like you'll make it. Coming up, we get our Junkyard LS into the shop and start tearing it down, getting it ready for its new life in our C1500. All right, guys, well, we have our LS into the shop here. We've got the transmission off of it, and it's sitting on the engine stand, and we're gonna get ready to put it into our OBS Chevy truck. But there is one thing we know about this motor is we have no clue how many miles are on this thing, so we're gonna have to tear into it a little bit. It's got some oil leaks and some parts that are pretty much wore out, but that's where Rock Auto comes into play. What we're gonna do is get a list together, and we'll jump online and get those parts ordered to take care of all the issues on this engine. The first thing we gotta do is just kind of dive into this. We'll start that list, and we'll go from there. We'll start by taking off the front accessory drive. It didn't make a big mess. That's a first. Oh, that's a little heavy. Then we'll move on to the intake. He's down here for now. Up next, we'll loosen all the bolts for the heads and pick them off too. So my first initial thoughts on this is the engine doesn't look half bad. There's no broken pieces, but then again, I'm no engine expert, but luckily for us, we do have somebody right next door that is. All right, guys, well, we have the heads off of it, and like I said, I went down to Engine Power and got some reinforcements. So we got Frankie here that's gonna kind of hopefully tell us about how many miles we think might be on this thing. So,
well, the good thing about these engines, LSs, is that they're known for going high miles and still being perfectly fine. And just looking at this one off the bat, I mean, the top of the pistons look good. They're a little bit wet with oil. I don't see any scoring in the cylinder walls, so that means a ring is probably not broken. That all looks good. There's a little bit of oil consumption, but you're gonna have that on a high mileage engine. I mean, I would guess that this thing is probably definitely over 100, maybe 100 to 150. Say it's hard to know. I mean, did you guys look at it when you pulled it out of the car or no?
No, there's no way of knowing, right? There's no dash or nothing in them, so.
Well, I mean, it still has crosshatch. It definitely, I would say it sat a little bit, but that's not a big deal.
Right.
But having crosshatch is a huge plus, and that's what these engines are really good about, is that they usually maintain a crosshatch into the high miles, and that's why people are able to pull them out of junkyards and make them run, you know, and
Right.
they run great. So, I mean, it turns over good, right? Have you turned it over?
I had to take or turn it all over
Okay.
when I had to
Wow.
get the torque converter bolts out. So I didn't hear anything. It didn't make any funny noises. Obviously, I'm doing it by hand right now. I mean, I have no compression in the engine,
Yeah. But still, that's a good sign that the bottom end turns over. And if you're gonna do like gaskets on this,
Yeah.
it might definitely be worth pulling the pan. Just make sure there's no chunks,
Mm-hmm.
cutting open the filter. That will tell you a lot about an engine, actually cutting open the filter, seeing if there's any material or what material is inside. That'll tell you what's wearing or not. But I think for what you guys are doing, you know, basically a stock daily driver type deal.
Right, yeah.
I think this is gonna be just fine. I mean, once you clean it up and everything, I think it's gonna run good, and it's gonna run like a not a brand new engine, but it'll run like a good engine, you know?
Right. Yeah, so we got some cleaning up to do, really. And that's really about it. We're gonna throw a bunch of new gaskets at it. We got a bunch of other parts to put at it. But from here, I'll probably just flip this thing over, get the pan and stuff off. And I know you guys have like a big hot tank cleaner
Yep.
thing,
Yeah.
so we may run some parts down by you then.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than doing it by hand, that's for sure. But
Clean them up. So I'm gonna get this apart a little bit more, and if I run into any issues, we'll come down and grab you.
yeah, for sure. We have a good selection of stock LS parts in case anything's broken, but I don't think you're gonna run into any problems. I think you're gonna be good.
Yeah, I think it'll be all right. That's the best thing about these
All right.
engine stands too, is you can just
All
turn
right,
them over.
that's my cue to leave.
Right. Now it's time to just make a mess, right? All right, let's get this pan off of here. Take a good look at what's underneath it, if we can see anything. Let's see. Any sludge or anything in here, or any big chunks? I don't see any chunks. It's a little sludgy, but that's probably just more from not changing their oil. But I think we're good. So from here, I'll probably get this thing just cleaned up really good. Then we can start throwing some parts and pieces at it. Get it ready to set in our daily driver pickup.
Now that we've cleaned up 20 years of dirt and grime on our engine, we'll give it new life with some fresh components. Jeremy has a lot of the engine parts cleaned up, and we talked about what parts we needed to complete the engine, and also maybe some things that we forgot while we were out at the junkyard. So we went to rockauto.com and put together a huge list and ordered everything that we needed. The nice thing about Rock Auto is that you can order anything from an OE style replacement, or if you want to do some upgrades, you can do that too. Just depends on what you want to do and how much you want to spend. So in our case, we tore the engine down a little bit, so we've got a full gasket set, which is a no-brainer because we want to make sure this thing is sealed up when we put it back together. We also got an oil pump, timing set, and we also got some external engine parts like power steering pump, water pump, starter, and an alternator. But for right now, we're just going to focus on getting the lung block back together. All right, the first thing we're doing here is just replacing this little oil restrictor that goes in the back of the block. These are super important because if this O-ring fails or if you just forget to put one in, then you won't have any oil pressure at all, and it's always a good idea with these junkyard engines to go ahead and replace this. We'll get the old one out and then put this new one in. Important thing here, just make sure you put some oil on the O-ring before you put the new one back in. There we go. Up next here is this cam retainer plate. In the block, there's these two oil passages right here. This O-ring helps contain all that oil, so it's another one of these parts where it's cheap to replace and easy enough if you're down this far, so it's cheap insurance. All right, timing chain on. Just make sure the timing marks are lined up. This might take a few tries depending on how many times you've done it. Also be sure to add some thread locker to make sure these bolts don't come out. We'll torque these to 26 pound-feet. When installing the oil pump, it's a good idea to go ahead and lubricate the internal parts for initial startup. All right, so now we'll move on to the bottom, get the oil pan and pickup tube in here, and that'll be it. Flip back over and throw the rest on the top.
We do have a new O-ring, that's a must. You just gotta be real careful here when you're putting this in. If the O-ring gets pinched, then it won't seal, so you just wanna take your time, kind of watch it, make sure it's not pinched or anything. That's it, good to go. So I'm actually going to leave these bolts loose for now because the rear cover and the timing cover, they have bolts that go through the oil pan into the covers, so it's just a little bit easier to get those aligned the way they need to, tighten those down, and then tighten this down last. So we've got our rear main cover and our timing cover here. It's a great idea to replace the seals. They're really cheap. Again, one of those parts, you might as well do it while you're here. To get these out, I find the best way is to just work your way gently with a screwdriver, tap it with a hammer, so you can really, it's easy to crack this stuff, so just take it slow. And then to get the new one in, just press it in. There we go. One thing to note with these seals, these ones in particular are Teflon, so when you go to install this cover on the engine, you do not need to oil it. With the timing cover, it's a little bit different because, as you can see, this seal doesn't ride on the crank itself. It actually rides on the crankshaft pulley. So we're going to put these bolts in a little bit loose. We'll actually install the pulley so it kind of lines up the timing cover, and then we'll tighten everything down at the end. Finally, we are on to the top end. Put some bolts on it. We've got our cylinder heads on, and I've got the bolts down by hand, so now we need to torque them, and these are an OE style head bolt, so they require a torque for the first pass, and the subsequent 2 passes are by angle. That's where our Matco Tools 3/8 drive electronic torque wrench comes into play, because this can do angle and torque. The nice thing too is that it has 9 presets, so if you do a job over and over again, you can just go to your presets, do the job, and move on to the next one. Another great feature of this torque wrench is that there are 3 ways it tells you you've reached your torque spec: by vibrating the handle, an audible beep, or the 3 stages of an LED. After looking at our old rocker arms and seeing how worn out they were, we opted to get a new set from Rock Auto. We got this engine pretty much buttoned up, and it looks so much better than it did when we got it out of the junkyard. Obviously, we cleaned everything, all the new Rock Auto parts, all that went on pretty smooth. So I can't wait to get this thing in the truck and see what it sounds like when it's fired up. There's still a lot of parts that we need to put on here before we get going, but it's almost easier to do those things once we get it in there. So looking pretty good.
Up next, we'll show you a quick and easy way to upgrade your fuel system.
We've got our Junkyard engine and transmission in our Silverado now, which is a pretty familiar sight for us because we've done this swap before. So we've got our ICT billet swap mounts from Summit Racing, and we're actually able to use the stock transmission crossmember for our 4L60E, which makes it super easy. I've got some other parts to throw on the front, so I'm gonna start collecting a bunch of stuff.
All right, and to get this thing fired up, we do have a lot of work to do. One of those is take care of this big bunch of wiring, get all that hooked up, and the other side of that is the fuel side of things. Now, with this being a 1996 Chevy pickup, it originally came with a Vortec engine. It had a pretty good fuel pump in it that could handle some decent horsepower. But since we went to the LS side of things, and that there is an off chance we may be adding even more horsepower, we need to upgrade our fuel pump. So that means I gotta get this stock sending unit out of the tank. Now it's pretty obvious that the previous owner installed a new sending unit, so this one comes out pretty easy. Get this out of here, get over to the table, we'll switch pump out. All right, to do the fuel pump upgrade on our Chevy pickup, we're gonna be using a kit that we got from Phytech. Now you guys can pick this kit up and it'll have everything you need to do the swap on your next project. Comes with the boot that goes around the pump, comes with the sock or the screen here, comes with the pigtail so you guys can wire this thing in, and a 340 liter per hour fuel pump. Now this thing is more than capable of handling the horsepower of our stock LS, but it will also handle more horsepower, like if we decide to add a turbocharger to this thing and get into a little bit of boost. This goes right over here into the stock sending unit, so all I have to do is just swap these things out. Get rid of that. We'll get this off of here too. All right, we'll put the new pump in. Put the boot on the pump here, slide this into place, and keep moving forward. Don't wire it up. All right, that takes care of the wiring side of things. Last thing, we'll go ahead and throw this sock or screen on the bottom of the pump here. And go put this back in the truck. All right, well that wraps up the fuel pump install, and that's also gonna wrap it up for us today. So if you guys like anything you've seen, check us out on our website. And we'll see you guys next time.
Today on Carcass, our 96 Chevy Silverado is getting close to hitting the road. We'll take care of some wiring and show you a trick to prime your engine before startup.
We'll also take care of some transmission maintenance and build a simple but custom exhaust system.
Hey guys, welcome to Carcass. Jeremy and I are well underway on our abandoned Silverado project. We've got our Junkyard LS and transmission sitting in this thing already, but we have quite a bit of work to do before we can actually fire it up. I'm going to be working on priming the engine with oil and getting the rest of the accessory drive installed on the front.
And what I'm going to be working on is the wiring side of things. Now, I've already gone ahead and stripped down the wiring harness that's inside the truck, and that just pretty much consists of taking a lot of the connectors, cutting them out of the harness, taping it all back up, and these things just go right into the garbage. Now on the LS side of things, or the engine side of things, this is actually pretty cool because the LS has its own specific engine harness. So if you guys go out to the salvage yard to grab something to do your engine swap, don't forget to grab this as well. The unique thing about this harness is that it all unbolts. So you've got the two big connectors here that go into the back of the computer or the ECU. You also have this big black connection that goes into the back of the stock fuse box. Now, you guys can choose to run this setup if you want to, Or the unique thing about this connector is if you take all these pink wires out of the back here, that's all just key on hot power sources. You can wire that into a smaller fuse box and your engine will run just fine. So what do I have to do? I'm gonna strip down most of this harness because I gotta get rid of some of the circuits we're not gonna be using. I'm gonna unpin them from these two big connectors, and that's all extremely boring stuff that you guys don't wanna watch. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive into this because it's quite a bit of work, and Jimmy's actually got a pretty cool way to prime the oil system in that engine, so you guys can go see how he's gonna do that.
With this engine being a refresh build, or if you have a brand new engine, it's a great idea to go ahead and prime the oiling system. This engine in particular, the block and the heads have been cleaned completely and there's no oil in the engine whatsoever. On these LS blocks, it's pretty easy to prime it because there's a plug on the side of the block and you just need a few things to do this. The first being an adapter fitting that goes from a 16 by 1.5 to an 1/8 inch NPT, and then a 1/4 inch barb on the end. And if you go to your local hardware store, you can get one of these pump sprayers to spray weeds and stuff like that. And if you cut the sprayer part off, the ID of these hoses is generally about 1/4 inch, so you can slide it onto the barb. And so what we're looking for here is getting oil to the top end of the engine. And if we take the oil fill cap off the valve cover, we can actually see onto the rocker arms and the push rods, and you can see oil come out some of the holes. So that's what we're looking for. I'll get the plug out of the block, put this fitting in there, and we'll get going. Hook this up and we'll start to pressurize. Got the hose on it, so now we can start to pressurize. This engine, because it doesn't have any oil in it, will probably take 6 quarts or so. And as the fluid level is going down in this tank, I'll start to rotate the engine over a little bit. We'll just kind of do that throughout this thing taking on fluid. And then we'll just check the top end and make sure we got fluid up there. And that'll be it. So it's just kind of a waiting game at this point. Once you pressurize it, you just gotta let it do its thing. What's pretty neat about this too, and this is actually a tank that I've used on an engine that I built, is I had a mechanical gauge in the truck that I was building, so I hooked it all up and I actually got almost 20 pounds of oil pressure just from this tank. So it's really forcing the oil through everything and it works out really good. And in total, everything costs about 20 bucks. So pretty cheap way, pretty easy way to do it. And as soon as the engine gets the rest of this oil, we'll be good. It's a good idea to turn the engine over while doing this to ensure that everything is properly lubricated. That's 6 quarts of oil in this engine. We got oil all the way up in the valve train, so I'll get the rest of the accessory drive on this thing, and once Jeremy throws the harness on, we'll be in pretty good shape.
All right, guys, well, I'm deep into the wiring harness, and I've got some of the wires laid out that we're gonna end up keeping. Now, it's a really good idea for you guys to label these so you know where they go once you get into this. Like, one of these is for the check engine light, got one for the brake light switch and the OBD2 port. But for the wires that you guys are gonna depin or that you're gonna get rid of, I figured I'd show you guys how to do that. It's really quite simple. All you gotta do is have a small screwdriver, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so once you guys get the little gray cover off of the back here that holds all the wires in, and you take the other blue cover off of this side, you can get down to the actual pins. Now you've got a bunch of these little white tabs that you have to pick up, so we're gonna pull out this black wire here. All you do is pick up the tab a little bit and put a little pressure on the wire. Then you can actually pick up the pin and pull the wire out of the way. Now, once you're done with that, you can go ahead and put the cover back on. that, and put the cover on the back, and then you'll be all set. So once you got all the pins pulled out that you're not going to be using, what you want to do is wrap the entire harness back up in the wire loom, and then we'll get this put back into the truck. And that pretty much takes care of the wiring side of things. I do have a couple more things to do. That'll get us one step closer to bringing this truck back to life. We'll jump back into the engine bay and finish up the steering and cooling system.
We're getting really close to firing this engine up. Jeremy's got the harness all back in the truck and it's all hooked up. I'm gonna be working on getting the power steering system and the cooling system all together. And what's nice about these older GM trucks and the newer GM trucks is that they use the same power steering pump. So these hoses are for this truck, but all the fittings and everything are the same. For the cooling system, I'm gonna be using the hoses from the truck that this engine came out of. And this is all just really simple because you can buy all these parts at the parts store. So I'm just gonna get these hoses hooked up. We'll get this thing finished out. Once we get our power steering hoses installed, we'll move on to installing our radiator that we got from Rock Auto. To go along with that, we'll put in the shroud, which is actually the original that came with the truck. Then we can install the radiator hoses, which fit the Yukon that this engine came from. Along with our radiator, we also got our alternator from Rock Auto. This is a Remy 105 amp remanufactured unit, and the beautiful thing about Rock Auto is you have a lot of options. We could have gotten the heavy duty 145 amp option, and we could also get a remanufactured or a new one of those as well. But for our truck, we're gonna try to keep it on the cheaper side of things, so this will do just fine. All right, this pretty much wraps it up aside from a belt. And you may have noticed we are using all the stock hardware, but if you wanted to dress up something like this, there is a solution for you too. ARP offers a full line of hardware for many different types of engines. This kit in particular is their external hardware kit for the LS series engine. They also make internal engine fasteners as well. So if you're building some super high horsepower engine that just needs to stay together, they've got you covered there. This kit in particular features their 12-point polished stainless steel options, but they also make black oxide coatings and your traditional hex head. And above anything else, this hardware just looks awesome. Coming up, our Junkyard transmission needs some attention before we put our Chevy on the road.
With the top side of the engine pretty much buttoned up, it's time to focus our attentions underneath the truck. We're gonna be hooking up these transmission cooler lines. Then we also have to do a transmission service, and eventually we'll move on to the exhaust. But for now, we're gonna focus on these cooler lines. We'll get these under the truck. These are the stock cooler lines from our donor vehicle. This side goes to the transmission, this side goes up front to the cooler. Okay. These just slide in and they use some C-clip connectors. Right, and then we'll get the connectors in it. Okay, then we'll just slide these two little C-clips on here, which are teeny tiny. Don't drop them. Then we'll move towards the front and install our hoses and our hose clamps. There. All right, now because we've got our engine and transmission from the salvage yard, they drain the fluid out of them before they set them in the yard. Easy way they do that on the engine side is they pull the drain plug. But on the transmission side, they don't pull the drain plug, they actually poke a giant hole in the bottom to drain the fluid. So we have to replace the transmission pan. And since we're gonna have this down and we'll be right next to the filter, we're gonna go ahead and replace that too. Try not to make a big mess here and get this out. There we go. All right, for the filter and for the pan, we went to AutoZone and picked up some Duralast parts. Now, it's a really good idea, especially on higher mileage vehicles, to do a service on your, obviously, engine and on the transmission here as well. Now, their Duralast kits come with a filter and with a gasket. They're super simple to install. These meet or exceed all OEM requirements, and they take harmful contaminants out the inside of your transmission, especially with the filter change. So they're super simple to put in here. We'll just slap the filter into place, and we'll keep moving on. Get this nice new shiny pan up in here with the new gasket on it. We'll tighten everybody down. All right, well, that buttons up the transmission service in our truck. Now, we just opted to go with an automatic transmission because that's what we found in the salvage yard. But you guys can run a different transmission in this. You guys can actually run a manual as well. We're close to firing up our Junkyard LS, but first we need to build a custom exhaust system.
One of the last things we need to do before we fire this thing up is get the exhaust on it so we can hook up the O2 sensors. We got these cast manifolds from Summit Racing. These are universal fit and should go pretty easily into our truck.
How'd everything go up top?
Yeah, it was smooth. They fit really nice, so.
Yeah, they're nice manifolds. I'm gonna go ahead and get the collectors on underneath here, and then we'll just start hitting out the back. So.
All right, just do single exit probably.
Yeah, I think so. We'll end up putting a catalytic converter and a muffler in it, so we'll go from 2 to 1, and we'll get out the back somewhere.
Sweet, let me know if you need help.
I definitely will. These collectors came with the manifolds and already have the bungs for the O2 sensors welded in. Now, because our LS didn't come stock in our pickup, we're gonna have to build our own exhaust. So we went to Summit Racing and picked up this 2.5-inch diameter exhaust builder's kit. Comes with everything you guys need to get started. It's got a bunch of straight pieces. We've got some 45s. We've got some 90-degree bends and a couple 180-degree bends. Now, since this truck is gonna be a street legal truck, we also picked up a catalytic converter that we got from Flowmaster and a single-in, single-out muffler that we got from Hooker. Now, the first place I need to start underneath the truck here is with a 90-degree because we got to get under the transmission. All right, first piece is going to go in here. We're going to try to cross underneath the transmission here, but this piece of pipe's quite a bit too long, so we'll head over to the chop saw, take about 4 or 5 inches out of it, and we'll see how we land. This should fit. Let's go ahead and get it tacked in. All right, now we'll just have to do some trimming and fitting on this side, and that's just rinse and repeat all the way back. All right, so now we have the 2 pipes coming from the manifolds. We got to head towards the back, but we're going to go down to a single pipe. So here's the idea. We're going to take a straight section and one of the 45s and put it together like this. We'll end up cutting here a little bit, essentially creating a Y pipe, and then we'll start heading towards the back and get the catalytic converter and the muffler in here. For this one, get a rough idea where to trim it to first. Something like that. And we'll cut it up. That's pretty close. All right, that should work perfectly. Now I just need to cut a hole in the long piece of pipe. All right, so I have the hole cut in here for the Y pipe, and I also cut this pipe a little bit shorter because I do know where I want the catalytic converter to land. So we're gonna go ahead and slide this stuff up and in here. Get them all lined up with our marks that we made. And we'll go ahead and throw a couple tacks in, and then we'll put that catalytic converter in as well. After we tack the converter and muffler in place, I'll come back and cut the tacks by the converter and weld the entire exhaust system up on the table. This is the easiest way to make sure we have an entirely leak-free system. Then once it's welded up, we'll put the exhaust back in and clamp the last joint together. Well, what do you think? Exhaust is in it. We've got the air intake made. Everything basically fits. I think this should fire right up.
Yeah, what I love about this swap in particular, because we did this with another OBS, but this one, the fan radiator hoses are stock to the engine, but the shroud is stock to the truck. So it really looks like this thing belongs here.
It's kind of scary how everything works out here, right? Well, let's see if it starts. It should. I don't see why it wouldn't, so. Go ahead and give her a fire up. There you go.
Yeah.
Man, that thing purrs even.
Yeah, good job on the wiring.
Dude, that's not bad for a salvage yard engine.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
Don't know if the transmission shifts, but it's running.
Who knows?
So.
Yeah, no noise.
I like it. It fits in here very well.
Yeah, the wiring's all tidied up. You did a nice job on that. I mean, obviously nothing's wrong with it because it runs.
It's running, right?
So.
Well, you know, that pretty much takes care of everything under the hood. I say from here, we got to focus on some body work, but let's check some fluids and just kind of make sure everything's ready to go.
Yeah, let it warm up a little bit.
If you like anything you've seen on the show today, check out Power Nation TV. Today on Carcass, we take our clapped out C1500's exterior back to OEM standards. We'll replace some sheet metal and clean up some dents.
Then we'll get in the booth and restore the popular factory paint. Plus replace some worn and faded parts to get our Chevy back on the road to redemption. Hey guys, welcome to Carcass. Jeremy and I are well underway on our mini restoration for our C1500 Silverado project, and we've gotten the engine and transmission in it. This thing obviously runs and drives, and now we're onto the cosmetic side of things, and we're gonna give it a respray.
So we're down here in the prep booth, and it's time to give this thing a good once over. So we're gonna start the processes of doing some body work. We are gonna paint the truck the exact same color, but at least we want it to look pretty shiny. I'm gonna go grab a bunch of stuff, and we'll get started.
Yeah. On the door here, we have a couple areas we're gonna have to take care of. This one's pretty bad. This is a tiny one, even one up on the pillar, but these are all pretty simple to take care of. We'll pull them out a little bit, fill them, and sand them smooth. However, on the fender here, there's 8 or 10 spots that we would have to fix, but it's just not really worth our time, so we will be putting new sheet metal on this thing.
Now, for as much body work as our other fender needs, and for the sheer price point of a new one, it just makes sense to replace these things. For under $100, you can pick up a new fender versus spending 5 or 6 hours trying to straighten out our other fender. So what we did is went to rockauto.com, typed in our 96 Chevy Silverado, and scrolled down to the body section, and we picked out our fender. Now, for the fender itself, these things come brand new and they're stamped replacement parts. They come with an E-coat, which is kind of like a primer, so I have to prep that before I get into paint. So, with a red Scotch-Brite pad, away we go. The reason why we're scuffing the inside of our new fender is because we're going to be painting it the same color as the outside of the truck. This is called jamming. Jamming is the process of painting the inside of complete body panels, or door jambs, before you lay down the color on the outside of the vehicle. Before we spray body color, we'll seal the inside of the panel, then apply a couple coats of color, allowing it to flash. Lastly, we'll throw down 2 coats of clear.
All right, so Jeremy's finishing up the fender. I pulled some of these dents out, so I'm gonna go ahead and get some filler on them. Once the filler sets up, I'll sand it and match the contour of the truck.
How are you doing? I got the fender all done here.
Yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape. Just kind of doing my final sand here, and then we'll move on to the rest of the truck.
Yeah, we'll get this thing on here. I'll bolt it down. We'll get the hood on it, and sweet. Keep moving on.
Let's get the hood on, and then we can just keep sanding away. Get this thing ready to spray.
Yeah, I'll get her in the booth and lay down some color here shortly. Our Chevy gets some more TLC on the body before it finally goes into the paint booth for some color. We'll bring back the OEM shine to a classic Chevy paint choice.
Hey guys, welcome back. We've got a couple DAs with 320 grit sandpaper on it, and we'll get this thing ready to spray.
We're using 320 grit to sand the entire truck down to give our sealer and our color a mechanical bond. This can be quite time consuming, but you have to make sure you don't leave any shiny areas, because we want to make sure the paint stays on the truck for a long time. This may include using a DA and some hand sanding in the hard to reach areas. We'll take our time masking off the entire truck. And finally, we'll wipe it down with some wax and grease remover to get rid of any contaminants that may be left on the original paint.
Because we want our truck to be as straight as possible and there's quite a few places with bodywork already on it, we'll spray it with a few coats of 2K high build primer. This way we can go back to sand it one more time and make it as smooth as possible.
Once the primer has had enough time to flash, we'll go ahead and hit it with the DA one last time to really smooth this thing out. This turned out super straight.
Yeah, it should look really good. We'll get some sealant on it and then spray the color.
Yeah, it'll look really good when we're done.
First up is 2 coats of primer sealer with a 50-50 overlap to give our truck a uniform color to lay down our paint on.
All right, well, you guys have seen me spray color before because you saw me jam the fender, and there's really no secret that we are spraying this truck the original color, which is a popular color that GM used in the mid-90s.
For our color, I'll lay down 5 coats to make sure we get good coverage and a deep color. If you were ever curious where you can find the paint code for your vehicle, oftentimes it's on a tag inside the glove box, like on our truck. But there are also multiple online resources available to find out what you need as well. Our code is WA9794, which is bright teal metallic, and that's one of my favorite colors that Chevy had for these trucks. With the clear coat, I'll lay down 3 coats, trying to lay it down heavy enough to give it that nice, shiny look. Coming up, the truck is coming together, but first we have to add some new brakes and rotors to help our C1500 perform safely on the road. We've got our truck painted and it's back on the lift because we have to take care of a few things underneath, starting with the brakes. As you can see, the rotor that I took off is actually a 6-lug, but we will be going back to more of the stock style equipment, but we will be upgrading the rotors. So we've gone with EBC's GD Sport Series. These are awesome because they have the tone ring and the bearing races installed already. And a couple other features, these are slotted and dimpled. So for our daily driven pickup, this thing's going to be a little bit quicker than stock, and we want to make sure we can stop it, and these will be more than enough. I've got to take apart the other side, but Jeremy's going to show you a couple other parts we need to put this together.
To go along with our one-piece hub and rotor assembly, we needed a set of wheel bearings. So we went to AutoZone and picked up a set of Duralast wheel bearings, and we also have their wheel seals. Now before I install these onto the rotor, what I have to do is pack them with some wheel bearing grease. So that's where we're going to get started. Now these Duralast bearings are manufactured for OE fit, form, and function, and they're designed to meet SAE standards. These bearings did come as a kit, so there is a race with the kit as well, but since we have them already installed into our rotors, we're not too worried about those. And all I'm trying to do here is pack the bottom side of the bearing and push this wheel bearing grease up into the top side here so it kind of comes out. You guys can see that. And when we're done getting these packed, we'll get them into the rotor, and we'll also put in the wheel seals so we can make sure we keep all of that grease inside. And this one, basically done. I got grease all the way around it, so we'll move on to the next. All right, that basically wraps up that one. We'll go ahead and grab one of the rear bearings here, one of the seals, not make a mess, and we'll go get these installed. Bearing in the back, get the seal on there, and then we'll have to tap that in with a hammer. All right, get this in there and seated. That, you can hear that all the way around it. Clean this up a little bit and make sure we don't get any grease on the rotor. We'll go ahead and get these installed. Once we have the outer bearing and washer installed, we'll tighten down the castle nut, making sure we install the cotter key when we're done. Now to go along with our EBC rotors, we're also going to be pairing them up with a set of EBC Yellow Stuff truck and SUV performance pads. Now these Yellow Stuff brake pads have extremely good cold bite, which means it'll be great for a street driven truck like this. Plus they'll decrease your stopping distance over an OE pad. All right, well now that we have new pads and rotors installed, we're gonna make sure when we drive this thing for the first time, we're gonna bed the two together. And that basically means we're gonna make the pad and the rotor kind of work together. And that's just doing a bunch of starts and stops from specific speeds. So now that we got these pretty much set up, we can throw on the wheels and the tires.
All right, for our wheels and tires, we've got some General Grabber HTS, just a basic highway tire that'll get us down the road. We've got some steel rallies that we got from Summit Racing along with a nice hubcap. So we'll get these on. Got just a couple more things to do and then we'll be ready to hit the road.
We have a few more details to finish up before we take our Chevy for a little cruise in the country.
All right, we are super close to getting our truck on the road. We have a few things to take care of. Some other things we've already done. We put the side trim on the truck, got the wheels and tires on it with the hubcaps, new door handles, things like that, just to make it look really nice. And to match everything in the front and the back, we want to replace some lights. Our old taillight assemblies are super old and dingy, just faded out. They're not going to match the new fresh paint and everything. So we went to Rock Auto, Picked up some new assemblies that are gonna look great back here, and Jeremy also has a few parts up front that'll make it look just as good.
Like Jimmy said in the back, we're going to be replacing our new headlight and marker light assemblies from ones that we picked up from Rock Auto. As far as the marker lights go, these are all faded and this one's even cracked. And our headlights, they're basically the same thing that's on the truck. These are all brand new and nice and shiny. So I'm going to get these installed into the truck. We'll get the grill on it, and then we'll hit the road and take this thing for a test drive. Assembling these are pretty straightforward, but remember, this is plastic, so don't get carried away when you tighten stuff down. The headlights come as one complete assembly, so all we have to do is plug in the bulbs and tighten them down. And at the end, we'll wrap the whole thing up by installing the grill. All right, guys, well, it's test drive day.
Yep.
We are sitting in the 96 Silverado, our abandoned project. It's got an LS swap, it's got fresh paint on it, it's got a bunch of goodies, and we're actually out driving the truck, and I would have to say, I'm enjoying being in the passenger seat, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's fun to drive too. You know, this engine, it's got, safe to say, at least 100, maybe 120 or 30 horsepower over what was in this.
Yeah.
And in a 4,000 pound truck like this, that feels like a huge boost.
It's a rocket ship at this point.
Yeah.
You know, they're not the most popular things yet, not quite like a square body is, but they're super close.
Yeah, very.
This is the next platform. I think we did this truck a whole lot of justice with what we did as far as the ease of doing a salvage yard LS swap. We painted it the same color so we didn't have to worry about door jams or, you know, the box and where the cab meet, where that little hidden piece is between there. It's those little things, keeping costs down and having a very nice running and driving truck. That actually is turning quite a few heads.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, and otherwise, you know, we could still go, you know, do some other things to this truck. It's mostly cosmetic, I would say. Like, the rear bumper's kind of jacked.
Right.
Just someone tried to tow with it and bent it like crazy. So there's some cosmetic things, but overall, like, this is a truck that you can literally hop in. It's not crazy loud. It's not, you know, it's still got kind of that nice flowy, kind of not bouncy suspension, but it gives you a nice, it gives, like, you know,
right.
Hit a big bump on the freeway, it
Just
feels
like that.
good. Yeah,
Right.
So yeah, this to me is like the ultimate driver.
Yeah, and really should get better fuel mileage than what was in the truck. Well, what wasn't in the truck when we got it, but what it came with stock, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I bet this thing would get close to 20 on the highway.
Yeah, and it's super peppy.
Yeah.
Like super peppy.
Yeah, you can actually like accelerate around people if you need to pass somebody.
Yeah, get into it and get out of it.
Yeah.
I think we did it justice really to put this old truck back on the road and just enjoy it for a while and possibly bring it back and add some power later.
Right.
Like something in a turbo, we can get into different harnesses so we can do better tuning. I mean, this is a great platform for us to just have fun. Really, the truck is super close to being, I would say, a restored truck.
Yeah, totally.
We're definitely knocking on the door of having a fully restored truck at this point, and a great running driving one, so
Yeah.
why stop?
Right. Yeah, this hobby is a disease.
You could say that again. If you want any more information on what you've seen on the show, check us out at Power Nation TV. Hey guys, Jeremy and Jimmy here from Carcass. Now some of you may or may not remember what this project is. It's a 96 Silverado that we decided to turn into a daily driver. We put on a couple new body panels, we fixed a couple spots of rust in the back here, and we even put on a fresh coat of paint. But we also went to a local salvage yard and picked up a 5.3 liter LS engine that Jimmy put some parts in to get this thing running. On top of that, we grabbed the stock wiring harness and the ECU to get this thing on the road.
Well, one of the challenges with an engine swap like this is the engine management system. And like Jeremy said, we went through the harness and stripped out everything that we didn't need and had the ECU flashed for our setup. But if you're not experienced in this area and maybe you cut a wire you weren't supposed to, or if you don't have the software to flash the ECU, your engine may not run. So what we're doing today is swapping over to Edelbrock's complete engine management system to give us that simplicity and the tunability for upgrades later on. And today we are lucky enough to have Mark Campbell from Edelbrock to talk about and help us install their new engine management system.
Yeah, we have our new ProFlow 4 Plus EFI system. Obviously works well with the LS like we're going to do today, but also is fully compatible with the Gen 3 Hemi and the Ford Coyote platform.
Cool. And this thing can handle upgrades like if we wanted to do a cam, header swap, intake, stuff like that. This has a self-learning feature, so it kind of automatically updates everything in there to make your engine run correctly.
Absolutely. It just looks at the O2 sensor. You put in what air-fuel ratio you're looking for. It automatically corrects and feeds all that data right back into the tables and makes all the necessary adjustments.
Sweet. And the setup sounds really easy because all we need is a tablet or even an iPhone just to download the app, and you just go through, pick your settings, and you're kind of on your way.
Absolutely. Apple or Android device, so you can use your iPhone, whatever telephone you have that you want to use. Simple download of that app and plug it in and go. There's a really nice, very simple setup menu. You put in answer a few questions basically, and
yeah,
it's ready
that's
to go.
awesome. And then you guys also offer a transmission control unit. We have a 4L60 in our truck, so these, I imagine they play very nice together, and just if you are swapping to an electronic transmission, then you can set it up.
Yeah, very, very simple. It's just one single CAN connection between the two boxes. The beauty of that is if you do an upgrade, you start with maybe a manual transmission or a non-electronic transmission. You can buy the box and the harness afterwards, set it up, and simple as can be.
Yep. And relative to the old harness, that's all stiff wires and like the conduit and everything's kind of screwed up. But this stuff looks super durable. Everything you guys have it wrapped in looks really nice, and the connectors, you know, really beefy, waterproof, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And we can mount these in the engine bay under the truck. How does that all work?
Yeah, they're fully potted, so they're 100% weatherproof, no issues there. All the connectors, same thing, they're all weather tight, so you're good to go. You can literally mount it anywhere you want.
Sweet.
And like you said, much unlike the factory harness, brand new wire, nice and pliable, and easy to install.
Yep, nice and simple, looks clean. Well, I think Jeremy's getting the old stuff off, so we can take some of this over there and get started.
Perfect.
All right, let's clean it up a little bit.
Man, there are a ton of wires in this truck.
Yeah, I think we did a decent job, but just obviously this system will be way more capable, so.
Yeah, and clean it up. I've already got this side basically disconnected. Get the rest of it off of that side, and then we can start putting your harnesses on, and we'll lay everything out. Is that it?
Yep.
Got it.
All right, old stuff is off. Where do we start?
Well, probably just laying out the main harness for the injectors and the all the bits and pieces that we got to hook up here, and we can get it all kind of laid out, start plugging it in.
Cool. Work our way down and backwards.
Absolutely.
Sweet. All right, I'm kind of sneaking under some stuff here.
Absolutely.
So we just hooked up the coil harnesses, and this little harness also has a ground, cam sensor, and then also a crank sensor will run down there. Some of the stuff we'll have to hook up later when we can get under the truck, but what harness after this one?
Probably we'll start working with the coolant temperature, fuel pressure, all that.
Okay.
That's probably the next best choice.
This one here?
That's the one.
Cool. Kind of get this spread out a little bit, see what we're looking at.
Absolutely. Nice thing is, everything's labeled.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Makes it simple.
Yeah. At this point, we have the main harness kind of laid over the engine, got everything plugged in. What's the next thing?
May as well tackle the fuel system. We just had to add the little adapter in there so we can get fuel pressure off of here. So
Yep.
You can hand me that adapter and
Sure.
we'll put that on.
Yep.
All right, well, we got the fuel system, the fuel pressure all buttoned up. So
Cool.
I guess next step is we can get mounting the computer.
Yep. Any way not to mount this?
Really, it's fairly versatile, but we prefer not for it to be mounted with the plugs facing upwards.
Not this way.
I mean, it is a sealed connection, but if you can mount it with those plugs facing down or at least on a flat
Sure.
space, that works really good.
Okay. I think we'll just go kind of on the inner fender here. A lot of space over here and easy enough to get self-tapping screw in it, so.
Absolutely, that'll work perfect.
All right, so we'll get this one in and then also mount the transmission control unit. Kind of the same deal.
Mount it right beside there.
Yep.
All right, well, we got the rest of the accessory harness here.
Okay.
So that'll get plugged into the computer. This can run over here for our fuel pumps and a couple other items we got to wire in.
Okay. And this is set up for fans too.
Yeah, so over there you're going to have a connection where you can actually power up your electric fans as well.
Gotcha. We're lucky enough to run a mechanical, but obviously most people I would say are running, you know, aftermarket radiator, shroud, fans, the whole deal.
Absolutely.
So.
And then, yeah, your main power and ground are over there as well, which will go right to the battery, which is beside you.
Cool.
And a couple of the relays that, of course, control the fuel pump and the fans and other things. So it's all built into the harness, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, looks like that harness is kind of set up. Got battery cables running over here.
Yep. So we got our O2 extension
Okay.
and our O2.
Cool.
We can hook this up, I guess. You can run
Yep.
that through, drop it down, and then once we get the truck up in the air and do the transmission harness, we can plug this in as well.
Cool.
How are you guys doing?
We're getting a lot done here for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. It looks like you've got mostly everything buttoned up.
Yeah, we just got a little bit left here to do. We got to run this through the firewall, hook up to the pedal.
Okay,
A couple other little switch power tack and our brake light switch.
perfect. I'll take care of that. I'll go under the dash here and I can make those connections.
Awesome.
All right, I got the wires.
Got the wires there. Perfect.
All right, and then what's next up here then?
Well, we could probably go ahead, start getting everything ready for the throttle body. We can get the cold air intake off and start bolting that on.
All right, so there's a specific throttle body and pedal for your guys' system, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we list all the other parts that you'd need on our website with the kits. Right here we have the correct pedal to put on the truck. So you can hand this over to Jeremy. He can...
Yeah, there's only a couple things I have to do under here, just a couple connections, and I'll get this in as well.
Perfect. Awesome.
Okay, so under the dash here, we only have a couple things to wrap up. Obviously, we got to install the throttle pedal, and then we have just a couple wires. One of them is for the brake switch for the transmission. One is pink, that's the key on hot source. And they even give you a tack wire if you guys want to hook up the stock tack. So we'll go ahead, get all this wired in, then we'll transition underneath the truck, get this thing wrapped up.
We finish up the install of our EFI system and fire up the old Chevy.
Hey guys, well we're back working on the ProFlow 4 Plus system in our Silverado. We've only got a couple more connections to make. One of them is on the engine side, that's the oxygen sensor. Once we get this installed, we'll go ahead and jump to the transmission side of things, and that's pretty simple too, right?
Absolutely.
Well, that buttons up everything on the engine side of things, and this is the harness for your transmission controller, right?
Yeah, so the separate box that we have to control the automatic transmission, we have the main wiring harness here that'll plug in. We also have the rear speed sensor that goes into it, and to hook up to the speedometer.
Yeah, and this is an optional wire, right? You don't have to run this.
Yes, for sure.
This will make the speedo work in the truck.
Yep,
Perfect.
absolutely. And then one other wire here, if you do have four-wheel drive, control the transfer case.
Which we don't, but
Nope.
I'll find the harness for the speedo side in the truck, and you can hook those up. Well, I think that buttons up the install, right?
I think so.
We just got to get it down on the ground and program the app for the engine and the transmission side of things.
Yep. And we should be able to make some noise.
Awesome. Let's get it on the ground and see what we can do. All right, guys. Well, I think we're basically ready to fire this thing up, but before we can actually turn the key and start it, we do have to do a little bit of programming, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, if you key it on, I'll get this thing connecting, and it'll just take a second for that, and then we can get it set up.
Well, and while that's loading or connecting, why don't you tell us a little bit about your new facility out in Olive Branch?
Absolutely. So yeah, we recently just renovated our building. We now have our headquarters in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Really excited about that. All of our sales team, engineering, everybody's all there. And we have manifold production as well. So pretty excited to be there. It's kind of a new chapter in Edelbrock, and we're very excited.
Yeah, and it's not too far from where we are, so maybe we'll have to drive the truck down and check it out sometime.
Absolutely. You guys are welcome anytime.
Awesome. And when that's connected, we've got a couple things that we just need to input to get this thing
Yeah,
running, right?
basic information on the engine, a couple little screens, and we'll have this thing running.
Perfect. Let's do that.
All right, so we've got the check mark on the engine, so we're all connected. So we're gonna hit the setup wizard here. It's basically this is just the base map here, so we're gonna hit the start the wizard. Yes, we're gonna start fresh, so obviously we have a Chevrolet LS. We have one O2 sensor. You do have the option to put two in there, so we're good there. This is a 24X reluctor wheel on the crankshaft on this engine, so we're good. That is the throttle pedal that we've put into the truck, so we're good there. It is a single throttle body. This will also control dual drive-by-wire throttle bodies. It is the gold colored throttle plate. There is also a silver one, but this is gold on here, so we're good. And it is actually a 4-pin alternator on this particular engine, so that's good. Next step, we do have a resonance style knock sensor in this engine, so we'll connect that. And it is a 5.3, so 325 cubic inches right in that area. So that's good. It is just a stock cam in this particular engine, so really easy there. You do have a couple other choices. It is a stock 26-pound injector in this engine. And basically that's it. So you can see it's loading the tune into the computer now. As soon as that's done, we can go to the next table and start the engine up. All right, key on, ready, fired up.
All right, let's see.
Take a second. There it goes. As simple as that, right?
Perfect, absolutely. So just step on the brake once, just to check the brake light switch to make sure it works.
Yeah.
Everything looks good. Idle set at 800.
That's perfect.
That should be good.
That's running great.
All right.
You're all set. As simple as that.
Shows all the stuff that's happening, runs.
And it's running
So,
great.
yeah.
Running really smooth,
And
too.
basically all we have to do now is just go drive it.
Right, right. So this is a self-learning setup, so the more you drive it, the better it's going to run, the more it's going to learn
Absolutely.
and get better and everything as it goes along.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I mean, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Simple as can be, right?
Simple as can be. Well, we're super thankful for you guys coming in. The setup was awesome, and obviously we always love the help getting this stuff put on here. So, you know, maybe we'll have to get this back on the road. We'll get the hood on it, and we'll come down and see you guys in Olive Branch.
For sure. That'd be awesome. You're welcome anytime you want to come.
That's great.
Perfect.
Yeah, it turned out really good.